All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Sunil Verma. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for reformed multilateralism with reformed United Nations at its center. Says India's health system has ensured one of the best COVID-19 recovery rates in the world. Election Commission seeks views from political parties regarding poll campaign in the wake of pandemic. Kolkata Airport extends restrictions on arrival of flights from 6 cities till July 31st. IITs decide to do away with 75% marks criterion for admission this year. All capital cities of northeastern states to be connected with rail network by 2023. And United Nations declares TehrikTaliban Pakistan chief Noor Wali Mehsood as a global terrorist. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for a reformed multilateralism with a reformed United Nations at its center. He said the reformed multilateralism in a post-COVID-19 world should reflect the realities of the contemporary world. Mr. Modi was delivering a virtual keynote address at this year's high-level segment of the United Nations Economic and Social Council ECOSOC session last night. The Prime Minister said, while celebrating 75 years of the United Nations, let us pledge to reform the global multilateral system to enhance its relevance, to improve its effectiveness, to make it the basis for a new type of human-centric globalization.
Multilateralism needs to represent the reality of the contemporary world. Only reform multilateralism with a reformed United Nations as its center can meet the aspirations of humanity. Today, while celebrating 75th years of the United Nations, let us pledge to reform the global multilateral system, to enhance its relevance, to improve its effectiveness, and to make it the basis of a new type of human-centric globalization.
He said India contributed to shaping the ECOSOC agenda, including the Sustainable Development Goals, through its domestic efforts. The Prime Minister said the COVID-19 pandemic has severely tested the resilience of all nations. Modi said India's Ayushman Bharat scheme is the world's largest health protection program, covering 50 crore individuals. He said in India's fight against COVID-19, the grassroots health system is helping the country ensure one of the best recovery rates in the world.
Today, our Ayushman Bharat scheme is the world's largest health protection program, covering 500 million individuals. In the fight against COVID, our grassroots health system is helping India ensure one of the best recovery rates in the world.
Mr. Modi also outlined India's efforts towards inclusive development. As the world commemorated the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi last year, India achieved full sanitation coverage in its 6 lakh villages. He said in 5 years, over 11 crore household toilets have been built, which improved the rural sanitation cover from 38% to 100%. The Prime Minister said in the last 6 years, the government has opened 40 crore bank accounts for the unbanked, out of which 22 crore are owned by women. He said that over the past few years, India has reduced 38 million tons of carbon emissions annually.
Over the past few years, we have reduced 38 million tons of carbon emissions annually. This was achieved by electrifying our villages, providing clean cooking fuel to 80 million poor households, and introduction of energy efficient measures.
Mr. Modi said India has set a target to install 450 gigawatt of renewable energy and restore 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. The Election Commission of India has sought the views of the political parties regarding election and public meeting in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. ECI has requested all the political parties to submit their views and suggestions by the end of this month. The Election Commission of India in its letter said by-polls in some states and the Bihar Assembly elections are due this year. It said several guidelines have been issued by the centre and the state governments under the Disaster Management Act 2005 in the current situation of COVID-19, prescribing safety measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. The Election Commission said some of the precautionary measures are compulsory wearing of face mask in public places, social distancing, restrictions on large public gatherings and congregations, thermal scanning at the place of gathering, and sanitization.
The restriction on arriving flights to Kolkata airport from 6 cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Nagpur and Ahmedabad, have been extended to the end of this month. In a tweet, Kolkata Airport said the temporary restrictions on arriving flights to Kolkata airport from 6 cities has been made on the request of the state government to restrict movement from high prevalence cities of coronavirus cases in order to contain the spread of COVID-19. The union government has informed that there are sufficient stocks of over 15,000 metric tons of medical oxygen supply and there is no problem in manufacturing, storage, transport and supply of medical oxygen. The Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has reviewed the situation of medical oxygen supply in the country. Average monthly consumption of medical oxygen has gone up to 1,512 metric tons per day, which was 902 metric tons per day in April this year. The government has said that the actual caseload of COVID-19 in the country is around 3,42,000. The Union Health Ministry said more than 6,35,000 of the total cases have recovered. He said that less than 1.94% of the cases are in ICUs, 0.35% cases are on ventilators, and 2.81% cases are on oxygen beds. The ministry said the case fatality rate at 18.6 deaths per million of the country is one of the lowest in the world. The collaborative efforts of all states and union territories has resulted in early identification of the infected persons.
India has become one of the front-runners in the global effort to develop a vaccine for the containment of COVID-19 pandemic. Government agencies have stepped up collaboration with private partners to fast-track the approval process needed for development of a potential COVID vaccine. More from our correspondent.
India has fast-tracked its efforts for the development of COVID-19 vaccine which are under human clinical trial stage. ICMR and Bharat Biotech have joined hands for the development of a potential COVID-19 vaccine called Covaxin, whereas the Department of Biotechnology has partially funded the development of Zydus vaccine ZyCoV-D. Zydus has set the target to complete the phase 1 and 2 human clinical trials in the next 3 months. Another top Indian pharma company, Serum Institute of India, has bagged a contract with British drug maker AstraZeneca to supply 1 billion doses of Oxford University's potential COVID-19 vaccine. This vaccine is currently at the most advanced stage at the world level. The World Health Organization has expressed hope that the COVID vaccine will come by next year. Bhupendra Singh, AIR News, Delhi.
Indian Institutes of Technology, IITs, will do away with admission criterion of minimum 75% marks in Class 12 this year. During a meeting, Joint Admission Board of the IITs decided that all qualified candidates who have passed Class 12 examinations will now be eligible for admissions in IITs this year, irrespective of marks obtained. Human Resource Development Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank said the decision has been taken in view of the partial cancellation of Class 12 exams by several boards. For admissions to IITs, apart from qualifying the JEE Advanced, the eligibility was to secure either minimum score of 75% marks in Class 12 board exams or rank among the top 20 percentile in the respective Class 12 board examination.
The Delhi government has started plasma bank facilities for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. These facilities have been set up in the Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences and Lok Nayak Hospital in Delhi. Talking exclusively to AIR News, Head of the Department of Blood Bank at the Lok Nayak Hospital, Dr. Sunil Kumar said, plasma therapy helps in the recovery of the corona patients.
प्लाज्मा थेरेपी कोविड पेशेंट के लिए बहुत ही यूजफुल है। जिनको कोरोना हो जाता है उनके शरीर में एंटीबॉडी बनता है जो उससे रिकवर कर जाते हैं और वो एंटीबॉडी का लेवल 1 महीने बाद सबसे उच्च स्तर पे जाता है और वो 3 महीने तक एक मिनिमम लेवल उसका मेंटेन रहता है इस बीच में अगर वो प्लाज्मा को डोनेट करें और वैसे पेशेंट जो अभी पूरी तरह से सीवियर कैटेगरी में नहीं गए हैं, यानी उनको अभी वेंटिलेटर की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी है, उस बीच में अगर उनको मॉडरेट कैटेगरी के पेशेंट को दिया जाए सेलेक्ट करके, तो इससे पेशेंट काफी हद तक ठीक हो जाते हैं.
The interested donors can call 1031 and can WhatsApp at 8800007722 to donate their plasma. Afterwards, the doctors will get in touch with the interested donors and will confirm their eligibility. A total of 1,462 new confirmed cases of coronavirus were reported in Delhi during the last 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 1,20,107. The Delhi government has confirmed that over 99,000 people affected with coronavirus have been cured so far. In the last 24 hours, 1,608 people recovered and 26 deaths were reported in the national capital, taking the toll to 3,571.
Uttarakhand government has decided to enforce a complete lockdown today and tomorrow in 4 districts of the state in the wake of sudden spurt in COVID-19 cases. More from our correspondent.
The state government has implemented a complete lockdown in Dehradun, Haridwar, Srinagar and Nainital this weekend following the report of the maximum number of cases of coronavirus in the state. The government has permitted shops related to emergency services like dairy and medical stores to remain open during the weekend. The movement of people on roads without valid reasons has not been allowed. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 cases crossed 4,000 in the state with 120 fresh infections reported in the state as per the health bulletin which released last night. However, 3,021 patients have been recovered and a total of 996 active cases in the state so far. Raghavesh Pandey, EIR News, Dehradun.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has appealed to the people not to venture out without any proper reason during the restriction period. State government has imposed 55-hour-long restrictions on this weekend also, and it will continue every weekend. More from our correspondent.
Talking to the senior police and administrative officers of the state, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath asked them to stop the infection rate of coronavirus at any cost. He said that a special team comprising directors and senior doctors of premier institutes like SGPGI, KGMU and Ram Manohar Lohia Institute of Lucknow has been formed, and help of this team should be taken in dealing with any kind of problem which comes while containing the spread of corona infection. The state is under a series of restrictions for a period of 55 hours from last night, and a statewide sanitization campaign will be launched today. The restrictions started from 10 p.m. yesterday night, will continue till 5 a.m. in the morning of 20th July. All offices, business institutions and markets in urban and rural areas across the state will be closed during the restriction period, although all emergency services will continue as usual. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
A 3-member high-level central team led by Joint Secretary Health Department Love Agrawal is visiting Bihar tomorrow to review the COVID situation in the state. Union Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Ashwani Kumar Chaube, said that the centre is keeping an eye on the situation in Bihar, and both governments have together initiated all possible steps to contain corona pandemic in Bihar. Meanwhile, positive cases of coronavirus infection mounted to 23,300, with reporting of fresh cases of 1,742. 197 people have lost their lives due to corona. In Gujarat, the 4-member central team reviewed the COVID-19 situation in the state and appreciated the state government for implementing some of the best practices to contain the virus, especially in Ahmedabad. Talking to media, Niti Aayog member Dr. Vinod Paul, who was a part of the team, said, Delhi and Ahmedabad have shown that COVID-19 pandemic can be controlled without stringent restrictions. A report from our correspondent.
Appreciating the SOPs issued by the local authorities for textile and diamond workers, Mr. Paul said this SOP need to give a generic form so that it can be implemented across the country. He stressed on the safety of workers when they return to work. Before leaving for Delhi today, the AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria will hold a video conference for the physicians of government as well as private hospitals regarding the treatment protocol. Meanwhile, 949 fresh cases of coronavirus reported in the state during the last 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 46,516. As many as 770 patients defeated the virus and got discharged from various hospitals yesterday, whereas 17 patients succumbed to the infection in the last 24 hours. So far, 32,944 patients have recovered from coronavirus in the state. Aparna Khun, AR News, Ahmedabad.
In Madhya Pradesh, the Home Department has instructed all district collectors to keep a special watch on the interstate border with a view to prevent corona infection. Similarly, instructions have been given to ensure tracing of all the people coming to the state. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan had also asked to execute them during the corona review meeting. A report.
Additional Chief Secretary Home S.N. Mishra instructed that it is necessary for the districts situated on the interstate borders to continuously monitor the situation in the neighboring district. Measures should be taken to control the movement of people on the interstate border. Arrangements has been made in many districts that people coming from the infection-affected districts of neighboring states report their arrival in the control room of that district. Shri Mishra has told all the collectors to ensure strict adherence of this instruction. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 case count in Madhya Pradesh climbed to 21,082 with addition of 704 new cases in last 24 hours. The death toll in the state has risen to 698. A total of 387 persons were discharged from hospitals yesterday. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Bengaluru Urban District in Karnataka has the most number of 20,623 COVID-positive cases. Around 79% of them are asymptomatic. To meet the growing demand for beds for treating asymptomatic patients, the government has started 8 COVID care centres in Bengaluru with 2,624 beds. More from our correspondent.
Owing to the shortage of beds for asymptomatic patients in Bengaluru, HIL established a COVID care center in just 16 days and handed it over to the Bengaluru Municipal Corporation. The sprawling Gadaka Convention Center is converted into 160-bed COVID care center with supporting infrastructure like toilet, bathrooms and other safety features. A memorandum of understanding was signed between HIL and BBMP yesterday, according to which the arrangements for doctors and paramedical staff and the running of the facility would be taken care by BBMP. It has identified over 600 beds to be utilized as quarantine facility at its 7 locations at Lucknow, Kanpur, Korwa, Hyderabad, Nashik, Koraput and Bengaluru. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
In Tamil Nadu, the total COVID-19 infection has crossed 1,60,000 with 4,538 people confirmed positive yesterday. Meanwhile, the Chennai Corporation has started taking antibody tests to assess the scale of the pandemic further. A report.
Antibody tests for the SARS-CoV-2 virus may not be a diagnostic tool. However, medical experts say they help a lot in epidemiological studies. The Chennai Corporation has launched the antibody test in the city, beginning with its field staff in the first phase. 28 out of the 564 people tested were found to have the immunoglobulins in their blood that are currently fighting the invading virus, which means they may possibly be carrying the virus. Therefore, the civic body has decided to carry the RT-PCR test for confirmation. The corporation has said the test would be scaled up in the days to come to cover the public as well. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
Actor Aishwarya Rai Bachchan and her daughter Aradhya Bachchan were admitted to Nanavati Hospital in Mumbai last night. Earlier, both were home quarantined after testing positive for COVID-19 a few days back when Amitabh Bachchan and Abhishek Bachchan were admitted to the hospital for the same infection. According to reports, the mother and daughter started showing symptoms of breathlessness.
In our series Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you views of leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Director of AIIMS in Delhi, Dr. Randeep Guleria advised the people to aggressively follow the social distancing and hand hygiene norms to check the spread of COVID-19 infection.
Regular hand washing should be done. So those who in an area where there is coronavirus infection should wash their hands regularly. You should avoid going to crowded places because if someone in the crowd is coughing and has the infection, he can spread to others in the crowded places. And if any member in your family has fever, cough, cold, he should stay at home and avoid going out so that he doesn't spread the infection to other people in the community.
Participating in AIR live phone-in program on COVID-19, Dr. Ved Chaturvedi, rheumatologist, Sir Gangaram Hospital, said that the viral load on surface is very low which reduces the chances of transmission of infection, but it is still very important to take all necessary precautions.
सतह को जिसे आप टच करते हैं तो इसमें जो वायरस है, यदि इवन आपके हाथ में वायरस है भी तो उसका वायरल लोड बहुत कम होता है, उससे ट्रांसमिशन होने की संभावना कम होती है। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हम वो प्रिकॉशंस छोड़ दें, बट इतना डरने की बात नहीं जितना हम लोग सोचा करते थे। जो मैक्सिमम इन्फेक्शन है वो जो फैलेगा वो या तो माउथ कैविटी से, नेजल कैविटी से, इसलिए मास्क लगाने के ऊपर इतना जोर है।
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for reformed multilateralism with reformed United Nations at its centre. Says India's health system has ensured one of the best COVID-19 recovery rates in the world. Election Commission seeks views from political parties regarding poll campaign in the wake of the pandemic. Kolkata Airport extends restrictions on arrival of flights from 6 cities till July 31st. IITs decide to do away with 75% marks criterion for admission this year. All capital cities of northeastern states to be connected with rail network by 2023. And United Nations declares TehrikTaliban Pakistan chief Noor Wali Mahsood as a global terrorist. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is in Srinagar on the second day of his 2-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Mr. Singh had a whirlwind tour to forward posts in Leh Ladakh on Friday and reached Srinagar to review the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir. More from our correspondent.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is on 2-day visit to review security situation at line of actual control in eastern Ladakh and on the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir region. On Friday, Mr. Singh had been to forward post at Lukunga at Pangang So to interact with the troops. He recalled the supreme sacrifice by the forces at Galwan Valley and warned a befitting reply to any misadventure. However, he said that India believes in peace with neighbors.
हम अशांति नहीं चाहते। हमारा चरित्र रहा है कि हमने दुनिया के किसी भी देश के स्वाभिमान पर चोट पहुंचाने की कभी कोशिश नहीं की। लेकिन यह भी मैं कह देना चाहता हूं दो टूक शब्दों में, यदि कोई दुनिया की ताकत हमारे स्वाभिमान पर चोट पहुंचाने की कोशिश करेगी तो उसे किसी भी सूरत में हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंगे, उसका हम मुंहतोड़ जवाब देने के लिए भी तैयार रहेंगे।
In Srinagar, the Defence Minister held a high-level security review meeting with senior army officials and police officers, along with the Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor G.C. Murmu. The Minister appreciated the security forces in cleansing the militancy in the region. Ramesh Chandra, All India Radio News, Leh.
In Jammu and Kashmir, 3 terrorists were killed in an encounter with security forces in Amshipora village of Shopian district during wee hours today. The encounter broke out after a joint team of Shopian police, Army's 62RR and CRPF launched a cordon and search operation following a specific input about the presence of terrorists in the village. The identity of the slain terrorists is being ascertained. The operation was still in progress when the last reports came in.
Railway Board Chairman V.K. Yadav has said that all capitals of northeastern states will be connected to the rail network by 2023. He said these are very important projects which topped Railway's agenda during the last 5 years. He told media persons that work to connect capitals of Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland and Meghalaya is in progress.
We are implementing projects to connect all the capitals of northeastern states. Now, capitals of Assam, Tripura and Arunachal Pradesh are already connected. Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Meghalaya. Capital connectivity work is in progress. Manipur will be connected in March 22. Mizoram will be connected in March 23. Nagaland will be connected in March 23. Meghalaya, March 22. And Sikkim will be connected in December 22.
Mr. Yadav said attempts to connect every part of Jammu and Kashmir to the railway are underway at full speed and the Katra-Banihal rail link project is likely to be completed by December 2022. The National Pension System NPS subscriber base has registered a growth of 30% in the first quarter of this financial year. Finance Ministry said 1,03,000 individual subscribers are from the private sector and 206 corporates were enrolled during the first quarter, resulting in a total of over 10 lakh corporate subscribers.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that the public sector banks have sanctioned loans worth 19,669 crores till 15th of July this year. She said the loans were sanctioned for 71 MSME hubs in 27 states and UTs under the 100% Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. The minister informed that 12,871 crore rupees have already been disbursed. Under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the government announced collateral-free loans worth 3 lakh crore rupees for MSMEs with turnover up to 100 crore rupees till 31st of October this year. India's foreign exchange reserves have swelled by $3.108 billion to reach a fresh all-time high of $516.362 billion in the week ended 10th of July 2020. Foreign currency assets, a major part of the overall reserves, rose by $2.372 billion to $475.635 billion. In the previous week, the reserves had increased by $6.416 billion to end at $513.54 billion.
The United Nations has declared TehrikTaliban Pakistan chief Nur Wali Mahsood as a global terrorist. The UN has blacklisted Mahsood for participating in the financing, planning and perpetrating acts on behalf of and in support of entities associated with Al-Qaeda. The UN Security Council's 1267 ISIL and Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee added Mahsood to the ISIL, Daesh and Al-Qaeda sanctions list, subjecting the Pakistani national to an assets freeze, travel ban and arms embargo. In June 2018, Mahsood was named the leader of TehrikTaliban Pakistan TTP following the death of former TTP leader Maulana Fazlullah.
Now let us take a look at the weather updates for today. In Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was 26 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while maximum will be around 35 degrees. The city is likely to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. In Srinagar, the temperature will hover between 18 and 33 degrees Celsius. The city is expected to witness mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Gilgit, the minimum temperature was recorded at 16 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 29 degrees. It is expected to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Muzaffarabad may also see mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Chandigarh will see a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The national capital Delhi may witness generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature was recorded at 28 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 36 degrees. Bengaluru is expected to have temperatures between 20 and 26 degrees Celsius. Ahmedabad will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. Minimum temperature will be 27 degrees Celsius and maximum 32 degrees. Generally cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm expected in Patna. The temperature will fluctuate between 27 and 35 degrees Celsius.
Now let's take a look at some newspaper highlights. Defence Minister's Ladakh trip mentions front page on all dailies. Quoting Rajnath Singh, Hindustan Times writes, talks with China on but no guarantees. A headline in the Hindu quotes the minister as saying, no one can touch an inch of India's territory. The Prime Minister's virtual address at the United Nations is also covered by all the dailies today. Improved UN will be epicenter of human-centric globalization, headlines the Pioneer. A front-page headline in the Times of India reports, Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Pune emerge as new urban COVID hotspots. The paper also adds, Kerala confirms community transmission. An Asian Age headline writes about the biggest award in sports history. Deccan Chargers win IPL arbitration to get 8,000 crore rupees. Almost all the dailies have mentioned about Sachin Pilot and the dissident MLAs getting a 4-day breather by the Rajasthan Assembly Speaker on their disqualification notices, and finally mentioning positivity and humanity. Teachers come home as Ahmedabad reaches out to special children is a story in the Indian Express.
And now, before we end, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for reformed multilateralism with reformed United Nations at its centre. Says India's health system has ensured one of the best COVID-19 recovery rates in the world. Election Commission seeks views from political parties regarding poll campaign in the wake of the pandemic. Kolkata Airport extends restrictions on arrival of flights from 6 cities till July 31st. IITs decide to do away with 75% marks criterion for admission this year. All capital cities of northeastern states to be connected with rail network by 2023. And United Nations declares TehrikTaliban Pakistan chief Noor Wali Masood as a global terrorist. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.